Alright, good morning everybody and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So folks, hope everybody's on pills today because we're going to talk about Becky Hill, the clerk of court from the Murdaugh trial. I was taking pills, who may have just blown the whole thing. Jesus, lady, you had one job: to sit there and keep your chatty little opinion to yourself. If the jury has a question, as the clerk of court, you answer it. If they need a little lunch, you order it. If they need a hotel room, you book it. Other than that, you sit there as one of the only people that has access to the jury during the crucial time where any inappropriate behavior can flush the whole thing, everybody's hard work and sacrifice, right down the toilet. And it's looking like Becky Hill may have blown it beyond belief. Where these allegations are coming from is 2 days ago, a bunch of headlines started popping up that Alec Murdaugh's lawyers are going for a new trial. I don't think at first it raised too many eyebrows because, of course they are. What else are they doing? They got all the time in the world. Alec is just sitting in prison with his big face staring at his iPad. Everybody goes for a new trial if you're facing 2 life sentences. You got all the time in the world, might as well. So, all right, yeah, they're going for a new trial. Good for them. What else are they doing? But then they held a press conference where his lawyers walk out with this gleeful energy. They're vibrating with glee. He pulls his speech out of his suit pocket like, wait till you guys see this. You could tell by their body language, they think they have something. They would have tried either way, and they probably would have come out a little bit sluggish. Yeah, we're going for a new trial, but they were feeling like we really got something. So here are the allegations against Becky Hill, clerk of court, and they're apparently backed up by sworn statements by 2 jurors. All right, so she's accused of asking the jury of their opinion if he's guilty or innocent. She instructed the jury, allegedly, to not believe the evidence that the defense put forward. She told the jury, don't be fooled by his testimony or his defense. Look at his actions. Look at his movements. And so these allegations, all of those, I think could be in the category of unacceptable and unprofessional. And she probably just got really familiar with the jurors over 6 weeks. You see them every day. And she's sitting in the courtroom, so she has all of her opinions. And she's watching everything go down. Alec is over here snotting everywhere. And so one of the parts of being a professional clerk of court is, even though you have strong opinions from sitting in there, oh my God, this guy is guilty, you have to be professional and keep your mouth shut and not... Okay, you know what, jury? As someone that sits in all these court trials, she probably thought of herself, I covered trials as a reporter for 10 years. Now I'm an elected official, clerk of court. I'm in trials all day. I know what I'm looking at this point, so I just want to feed a little information. I'm chatty. They call me Mama Becky or something. And so I think those ones, like I said, are in the category of unacceptable and unprofessional, still could lead to a whole new trial. But I think these next allegations against her could move into the criminal category, and she just lawyered up yesterday. So obviously Becky Hill thinks it's a possibility too. So anyone that watched the trial remembers, right as the whole thing was coming to an end, all of a sudden there's a Facebook post, which is becoming more and more common. It seems like right at the end, it's like, all right, this whole thing, we just got to tie a bow on it, make it official. Uh-oh, we got a Facebook post. There's a Reddit post. Who did it? Bring the juror in. We got to get to the bottom of it. So same with this one. Right as the whole thing was coming to an end, there's this Facebook post. So they bring in the clerk of court. They bring in the jury. Becky Hill saying, yeah, I found this Facebook post on some group on Facebook, and it was apparently, according to Becky Hill, one of the jurors' ex-husband, and the ex-husband was claiming that they got drunk and the juror talked to him about the case. You're not supposed to do that, inappropriate. So then the Judge Newman and Becky Hill, they're trying to figure out, all right, what should we do? And ultimately they got rid of the juror out of an abundance of caution. Let's release that juror just so we make sure everything's official. We don't want this whole thing to be flushed down the toilet because of one Facebook post. But then the Facebook post thing got weird because all of a sudden there was a apology Facebook post where the supposed ex-husband said, I was drinking when I made the original post and I allowed myself to be controlled by Satan. I'm going to use that one. Anytime someone's mad at me or I screw up, I'm just going to say, my bad, I allowed Satan to control me on that one. So chalk it up as the old Satan control, my bad. I think we can get past it. So apparently there was then the apology Facebook post to the original Facebook post that no one can find. And the apology was saying, I got drunk, I allowed Satan to control me. But Alex's lawyers are now saying that apology Facebook post couldn't be anything because all of that, the date it was posted was before, I don't know, they found the second one. Something about the dates of the Satan controlled me Facebook post doesn't even make sense. And then I think all the Facebook posts are gone. Becky Hill, I think, is allegedly saying couldn't find any of them. I don't know. And so they're saying she made up the whole Facebook thing, which is going to be really interesting if she did. Because like I said, all right, the first ones where she's chatting up the jury, saying inappropriate things, I think that goes into unprofessional, not cut out for the job, could still result in an entirely new trial. But then you get into the Facebook. If she's making fake Facebook posts and then making other Facebook posts to apologize for the Facebook post and saying this fake ex-husband was controlled by Satan and this juror gets dismissed for no reason and the ex-husband has come out and said, I didn't make any of those Facebook posts. I haven't talked to my ex, the juror, in a really long time. I don't know who made those Facebook posts, but it wasn't me. Satan didn't control me. And Becky Hill, just from what I've been looking into, she talks like that, like the controlled by Satan. She seems to be very religious. And so where did all of this come from? Alex's lawyers said that right after the trial, they had heard whisperings that there was inappropriate jury tampering. Things were being said. I don't know how they knew that or how they heard that, but I think the small town of Low Country, you really start to see it reveal itself now. So apparently they heard some weird stuff was happening and being said to the jury. So they said they started investigating. They were driving their Mercedes on dirt roads all over the little areas of that part of the country, and they said nobody would talk to them. They had a zone of silence is what they called it. They'd knock on a juror's door. The door would slam. Get out of here. I don't want to talk to you. So no jurors would talk to him. As Alex Murdaugh's attorneys, listen, we did the case. What are you guys doing at my house? The whole thing was done. I worked on it for 6 weeks. Get out of here. But then right after the trial, clerk of court Becky Hill, who is not looking great during this whole thing, accompanied multiple, either 2 or 3 jurors up here to New York City to be on the Today Show. That's right, Hoda, tell them. And so they come up to New York to be on the Today Show. Becky Hill has a quote where she's going, we got to ride in a Suburban from the airport and eat on Madison Avenue or something like that. And they're on the Today Show. And then a couple quick months later, Becky Hill, clerk of court, puts a book out titled Behind the Doors of Justice by Rebecca space, in quote, Becky space H. Hill. Bit of a clunker author name, in my opinion. Should have gone with just like Becky H. Hill, but the full Rebecca, and then in quotes, Becky, and then H, period, and then Hill. It's like, come on, this isn't the next great American book. You gotta chill on the long author name, I think, Becky. But she puts out a book, Behind the Doors of Justice. And apparently, according to Alec Murdaugh's lawyers, it did not sit right with some of the jurors. After she put that book out, and then I think what the allegations against her, that she was all chatty and telling them, don't get fooled by the evidence and this and that. And after the book came out, they were willing to talk, and apparently, according to Alec Murdaugh's lawyers, obviously they're going to spin this whole thing and make it look worse than it is, but apparently that's when the jurors came out and said, we're willing to do sworn statements that this is the type of behavior that Becky Hill was doing, and now we're waiting for a hearing where I think what's going to happen is Judge Newman is going to talk to the jurors, so they're probably going to get brought back in, and they're probably going to investigate, get to the bottom of that Facebook post, and then a pretty big decision has to be made. But if the lawyers are right, where it's already backed up with sworn statements, I think this is a big deal. It could be nothing, and that's almost the most frustrating part about this whole thing, is Becky Hill's little opinions and chatting about the whole thing ultimately I don't think affected it at all. But you have to stay professional and give people a fair trial, and you can't have any funny business. The whole jury was in there for 6 weeks, plucked out of their lives, hearing all the evidence, hearing all the testimony. I can't imagine then they go back into the back and the clerk of court goes, hey, don't be fooled. I can't imagine that actually affected anything, which almost makes it more frustrating, because it's like, you didn't do anything, Becky. Your opinions and telling them this way and that, and you don't be fooled, all of that is absolutely nothing. It's just you not being able to keep your mouth shut. It didn't affect, it's not like the jury was going to go, not guilty. Oh, wait, clerk of court, Mama Becky told me, all right, I'll do it. I don't see that happening. So it just was all for nothing, totally needless, couldn't help herself. And now the whole 7-week trial have to redo it. Think about all of those moments. Think about how at first Alec was saying, I wasn't down there, and then there was that big reveal. It's going to be really interesting if he gets a new trial. How do they tackle all of those things differently? Is he going to get up on the stand on that one? I'm sure the floor is still wet where he testified from all the snot and spit, so they're going to have to probably professionally clean the carpet and lay down a tarp for the next snotting session or something. Will he testify again? Will Becky Hill be criminally charged for that? Get this. This is another, like, holy crap, this is a small town. The lawyers that Becky Hill, high-profile lawyers that she lawyered up with yesterday to get ready for her legal fight, get a load of this. One of her lawyers repped the victims of Alec Murdaugh's financial crimes, and the victim was the 19-year-old deaf person that died on a ventilator after Alex stole his settlement. And then her other lawyer represented, I have it written down, Connor Cook in the boat case, the boat accident from that. So it's like all the lawyers are involved in all of the cases, and the small town clerk of court is southern chatting up the jury, telling them not to believe the evidence. Could be some fake Facebook post of some imaginary ex-husband that may have been controlled by Satan. And now here we are. I keep thinking there was one juror that didn't know how he was going to pay child support by being on the jury. I got to work. I can't not work for 6 weeks. I got child support due, and all of his friends and family came together and chipped in to pay the child support so he could stay on the jury and do his civic duty and get the whole thing wrapped up. And now here we are, waiting for a hearing to see if the clerk of court blew it. So, pretty nuts. Well, how much time I got? All right, I'm just going to talk about old Sarah Boone. I should make it its own episode. Now that I got my wife's pregnant, I got to start making better financial decisions. I should make it its own video, but I'm just going to tack it on here at the end. So, Sarah Boone's 7th lawyer, Mr. Bankowitz, quit. Court TV yesterday put out a thing, Sarah Boone's 6th lawyer quit. I think it's 7th. I think that was wrong, because in my last video about Sarah Boone, I said that it was her 7th lawyer, or no, she's on her 7th. Wait. Anyway, there's so many lawyers that have quit, no one can even figure it out anymore. And Mr. Bankowitz 4 months ago appeared in court, and this is what I did a video on. He goes, "Your Honor, we need to delay the trial again. We are having a hard time finding an expert for the price that the state will pay, because Sarah doesn't have any money to pay her own expert." And he tried to spin it like the state hasn't upped what they pay experts in 10 years, and we got this expert. And the defense or the prosecution is going, we can't just delay this thing for years until they have the right amount of resources to make the perfect case. And the defense, Mr. Bankowitz, we're going with battered spouse defense. The most important part of battered spouse defense is the expert to get up there and to explain to the jury what battered spouse defense is and why this case fits into it. Okay, well now 1 month ago, so I think that was 4 or 5 months ago, then they are back in court 1 month ago, and now Mr. Bankowitz is really trying to push, we have the expert, they've agreed to do it, it's only about money now, we got to figure it out. But I could tell by his tone, his confidence was waning bad. He didn't really sound like, it didn't sound real. So I think that Mr. Bankowitz was just stalling. No, we got a good expert, don't worry, they're good, they're very credible, and they're so very excited to just really explain to people why Sarah had to do this because of the battered spouse. And so the battered spouse defense is, I was going to read the definition where it's like the only option was to kill them to get out of life-threatening abuse and blah, blah, blah. But really, anyone with half a brain can hear the circumstances of a case, hear the evidence, and then immediately in their gut say, no, that was murder, or no, that wasn't murder. That spouse had it coming, and what do you expect the poor abused spouse to do? That's not murder. That's understandable, right? And I don't think anybody that's heard Sarah Boone's case saw the video. Sarah! I don't think anyone thought, yeah, that George had it coming. That's not murder. Let her go. She was the abused spouse. We got to take care of her, get her figured out. And a big part, I think, that will come up in the trial is they interviewed Sarah's ex-husband, and here's the picture he paints. That they were together, they got together very young, they got married, they had that kid, and Sarah's drinking just got really bad every day, blackout. Her neighbors called her Drunky the Bear. And they had this son, they lived together, and she would go out to the bars every night, and then when the bars closed, bring everyone back to the house. He said at 3 in the morning one time, he woke up to someone drunk in the house going, "Sarah, where are you? Sarah!" And he goes, "I was just trying to live an adult life. I had to get up. It was beyond terrible." So then we asked for it. We got the divorce going. He bought the house that they lived in from Sarah, bought her half out from her. So she got a big chunk of money right when they separated. And then he also paid her alimony. And in the interview, he goes, "I think that the alimony that I pay her pays for everything in her life. I think it paid for the rent and everything." So he pays her alimony. She also got a big chunk of change from him buying her half of the house. And so I think where all that's going to play in is she was not trapped. He did get arrested 4 or 5 times for domestic violence, but she also got arrested a couple times for domestic violence. But then the next day, every time she was be down there frantically and furiously trying to bail him out. "I need to get him out. I need to get George out. Can I have my Dr. Pepper?" And so if the battered spouse defense, which she's going with, if that's what you're going with, if he's in jail, right, that's not, you could escape. Right at that moment, you could say, "I am horribly abused by this person. I need protection." There's your escape right there. He's in jail. So it kind of takes takes her case down a notch, if that's what she's going with, to say, yeah, I had to do it. It was a battered spouse. But then, like, you're there the next day getting him out every time. The ex-husband was saying that Sarah gets really violent when she drinks, has punched him before. And he always had the head about him to not punch her back, and he wasn't drunk, but he was saying George and her would just get plastered together, and then they're both abusive, and they're both physically abusive, and it would get really bad. I guess apparently one time George stabbed her in the back of the leg with a steak knife. But another thing is, I think Sarah had all the money, right? She had that big chunk of money for the house. She got the alimony. The ex-husband said George had a job 15 hours a week for a little bit at the hardware store, but then it went out of business or it sold or something, and then he was out of work again and he barely worked. So I think Sarah wanted someone that was lower functioning than her. Because if you're as bad as Sarah was, blackout drunk every day, living the life that she was living, anyone higher functioning than Sarah is not going to date her. It's like, you're not even close to dateable, Sarah. You're a total nightmare on so many levels that I would rather date a tree than you. And so, but she wants to date someone, she wants to have a companion, so she had to find someone that maybe was even lower functioning and in a worse life situation than she was. And, you know, not to talk bad about the dead, but George was pretty down there. And the way that Sarah talks about George in the interrogation, there's this bizarre way she talks about him that I think a lot of what she got out of it is being above him and saying, yes, I help him. He was in such a horrible place, but I wanted to help him. And I think she got a lot of selfish gratification from helping this poor, sad George and it made her feel good about herself because she wasn't as in a tough a situation as George. She had a little money. I think she had a car. And if anything, with the person that has the money, she could have easily disappeared too. Also, the ex-husband is right down the street, and he was reluctantly helping her, and she had definitely worn his help thin. But if she said, listen, ex-husband, George is going to kill me. It's really bad. I need to come over. I need to hide out until the cops get here. I need help and to break off this, or George is going to kill me. A battered spouse type thing. The ex-husband, I have no doubt in my mind, would have said, no problem, come over. She'd go over there anyway. And so it's going to be really hard to come up with the battered spouse defense because she has the money, she has the house, she's getting the alimony, pretty sure she has the car. You could have just went and gotten your car and driven away. Also, once you lock him into the suitcase, all right, you got him trapped. If this is the guy that you had to do that to keep him from killing you, now that you got him locked in the suitcase, would have been a great time to call the police. My boyfriend, I thought he was going to kill me. I tricked him to get in the suitcase. I zippered him up, and now he's in there. I really need you to come out right now. Now he says he doesn't have any air. Another part of the interrogation, I watched her interrogation the other night too, that stuck out to me, is she's going, are you gonna tell his family? And they're like, yeah, we're gonna tell his family. And she goes, well, what are you gonna tell them? And they're like, we're gonna tell them the truth. And Sarah goes, they're gonna think that I did this. And the cops are like, well, what do you expect? And Sarah goes, they're gonna kill me. They hate me. And she goes, they have never liked me, and George hasn't been seeing them. And then she proudly goes, because he has picked me over them. That was a feather in her cap. And then she also said, they call me, talking about George's family, they call me the blue-eyed white devil. And it's like, you can kind of tell when someone makes up their own nickname, where it's like, yeah, everybody calls me the East Mississippi Badass. It's like, no one calls you that. I have a feeling you call yourself that in your head. yeah, they call me the blue-eyed white devil, when in reality her nickname was Drunky the Bear. So apparently now there's pre-trial at the end of this month. Trial's supposed to start in October. There's no way that's going to happen. Mr. Bankowitz, her 7th lawyer, as he quit, made a statement to the judge saying she should represent herself. No one's going to satisfy her. The only way a lawyer is going to satisfy her is if that's her only client and he has all day, every day to take her calls and reply to her letters, and getting a public defender, that's just not going to be the case. Also, Sarah thinks the whole thing is so complicated, my complicated, convoluted side of things, when really it's not that complicated of a case. It's pretty simple. You got the video, you got a couple interrogations. I can't imagine there's going to be all that many witnesses. Sarah's going to have to get up there and explain her side of the story. I was thinking, will she take the stand? She has to. But will she? I don't know. Maybe they'll have to bribe her with a Dr. Pepper, her lawyer. Do you want a Dr. Pepper to get up on the stand? I really think you should. But knowing Sarah, she will love to get up on the stand and just ramble up there. If she represents herself in a whole different way, it's not going to be a Darrell Brooks in the same as Darrell Brooks, but it could be on that level. And one thing I will be looking forward to if she does end up representing herself is during her interrogation, she was going with stories to try to explain the whole thing. And then when she saw that she couldn't pull that off and that the detectives weren't buying it, she would just stop and just totally change her story to something completely different and not even comment on how she just was saying something else and then it petered out and she went in a whole different direction. So if that's the case in the interrogation, I would guess she'll be up there in front of the entire world on the hook for murder, improvising legal strategies as she goes and is changing them, and it is going to be an absolute circus if she defends herself. I'm rooting for it. I'm going to cut it up there. I love you all. See you soon for more hot-ass content on True Crime Loser. Why, Stuyven, why? Shamita.